And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with David Solomon. David, thank you, sir, for spending some time with me today.
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. It's going to be a great conversation. So David is the founder of Zero Growth. He's a chief revenue officer, which sounds really cool, but really he's a catalyst for business growth. And David, when I was looking at the research, doing my research before this, I love that word catalyst. And
Hmm.
and I want to dive into that because you're really passionate about helping businesses identify a new market, but also generate revenue. And I know that business owners struggle there. So I'm super excited about just diving in and having a conversation around all of this. So let's just jump in and tell me, David, I mean, how in the world did you get doing what you are doing today?
Michael, first of all, thank you so much for this. This is awesome. And I got to tell you really quickly, it was an accident.
Okay.
I live up in Canada, and your big, beautiful Walmart comes to Canada in 1995. I'm a 25-year-old kid, as I like to call myself, in the toy business. We were a toy manufacturer at the time. I get a new boss, and his best friend is the director, one of the big directors at Walmart. And he says to me, "Kid, you understand how to work with small and mid-sized businesses, but do you understand what it's like to work in the big? Do you want to play in the big leagues?" Those were
Hmm.
his words. And I said, "You know what, Bruce, bring it on. I could do it all. 25 and cocky, what the heck?" So we sit with his friend, the director, who says to me, "Listen, kid, I don't want you to come in here with a product. Here's my strategy. Here's what Walmart needs to grow and scale. These are our objectives. This is what we want to reach. I want you to come up with a plan. I don't want you to come up with a product. I want you to come up with a plan. This is what we want to do." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." Whoa, baby, that is not even close to what you think it could be. And until we figured it out, and they mentored me into understanding strategy, growth strategy, what Walmart needed. And now, in their case, it was just a matter of their physical real estate in the stores, what they needed per square foot, per this, per that, which today is the normal speak. Back 30 years ago, people didn't talk like that.
Okay.
And so I learned very quickly all about strategy, and I brought that we grew our business exponentially with them. We tripled our business in Canada in 2 years because we took that policy to every major player, and boom, the numbers just went through the roof. So I did that for 7 years in the toy business. I was fortunate enough to then do this in other countries. I worked with as an export manager at the same company, so I brought it to Mexico, Argentina, Puerto Rico, Europe, Africa, Middle East. I had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the company was bought and sold twice, and we were bankrupt in 20 months. So there was that. And so I went back to my original place where my first career was in the newspaper business. And in the newspapers in the 2000s, Michael, we were struggling with this thing called the internet. People
Yeah.
were moving dollars. You're an ex-radio sales guy. I'm an ex-print guy.
Yep.
And so print dollars went from our newspaper to digital. So to keep that going, we kept pulling, and we just worked that strategy with all of our clients, agencies, and whatever. I launched 3 magazines. I launched our internet, blah, blah, all about strategy. So for 20 years of my career, I was doing that. And then I had enough. In 2012, I walked away from all that, went back to school to get an MBA, and discovered in school, hey, there is a method to this madness. There's a framework, there's an understanding, there's a structure. So learned that. And when I finished the program, two things happened. One is I spent the next 10 years working with small tech companies who all wanted to grow and expand. I built out their growth to market strategies, try to offer them expansion opportunities. But then when they realized what it needed to do to hit the objectives that they wanted to, they decided no, that was not what they wanted. And so we kind of pivoted in over 10 years. The second thing, Michael, that happened, and I know I'm sorry I'm taking a little longer,
That's
but
good. I
this
love it.
is the dean of McGill at the time where I went for my MBA. She asked me, what could we do to improve the program? And after a big back and forth, I said to her, the only thing you don't talk about is sales and sales growth. You're teaching future managers about how to run a business, how to scale a business, but nothing to do with revenue growth. Where's the strategy behind revenue generation? So she says, why don't you teach it? Well, I wasn't a teacher, Michael. My mother was, my wife is, others I knew, but I wasn't a teacher. Well, guess what? I built a course over the course, and now for the last 8 years, I've been teaching two MBA students as well as Masters of Retail Management how to think strategically when you talk about growth. So 2 years ago, I said, I'm going to take this and make this a full-time career. And now I work with small to mid-sized businesses who can't afford full-time help. I mean, this is the reality. We don't have full-time
Yeah.
help to grow and to scale, to look for those new markets, to look for those new growth opportunities. Well, that's what I do on a part-time basis with companies, and I bring them to new markets wherever they are. And that's
I
that very long, short version of the story.
Dude, I love that, but it talks about the long tail that you've had on the front end of your career to get you here. And I love the line, bring me a plan, not a product.
Correct.
Oh my
Correct.
goodness. If everybody listening will just stop and rewind for about 5 minutes and re-listen to what David said, because so many people are hung up on their product or even their process. I want to make my
Hmm.
process so wonderful that everybody's going to tell. And the reality is that's important, but there are some other things that are more important, like a plan, right? So business owners, you know this, David. I'm probably not speaking out of turn. Most of us, dare I say, we're goofballs who just accidentally got into running a business, and we're trying our best to figure out how to make money, how to keep money, and we don't understand strategy in revenue growth. We're trying to make a sale, gain a client.
Absolutely.
Unpack that a little bit more for us because you position yourself as a fractional chief revenue officer.
Right.
Unpack what is that, and when you talk strategy kind of for small business owners, give us something to go with.
Oh, it's a great question, Michael, and I get this all the time. And if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see there's a great post where I say, here's the difference between a chief revenue officer and a sales director. Your sales
Mm,
director, that person is your day to day. That person makes sure, to your point, we need to make a sale. That's their job. Go make a sale. We decided we're going to sell X in 2025. We got to sell X in 2025.
yeah,
We said we're going to go after this customer. We're going to do that in 2025. But listen what I said, 2025. No one's
yeah,
thinking 26, 27, 28
yeah,
because we don't have time. And as small business owners, you're right. By the way, small, mid, I don't care if you're a million, 5, 10, 20, 50. We're so caught up on today. The president of the United States puts tariffs in place. Oh my God. But no one thinks of tomorrow. It's all about today. It's reactionary.
yeah,
Had we planned in 2024, knowing there's a chance of pet tariffs, there's a chance I may not be able to hit this market or do these things, da da da. Where am I pivoting? How am I pivoting? What am I thinking about? What do I need to do? Pricing, structure, da da. That's the chief revenue officer. The chief revenue officer plans future growth, pivot plans, aligns marketing and sales, makes sure that we're looking in the crystal ball down the road so that we're on the right path, but also aligns with the other departments. So you have an operations, a finance, HR. Well, that CRO, that chief revenue officer, is at that table having these really important conversations about, all right, if we bring in another $1 million of business, how are we going to deliver it? Who's going to make it? How are we going to bring the right people into place? What do we need to do? So, what we're used to having is a salesperson thinking only sales. The CRO is thinking of the company through sales, but thinking of the company and the growth and the profitability of the company. That's the big difference.
yeah. That's really good. I love how you said that. I wrote a line here, and I'm going to say it, and you can tell me if I captured what you just said about the sell something today, but nobody's thinking down the road. Is today is important, but tomorrow is vital.
Is vital. Yeah,
We
absolutely. And if you're not watching out for tomorrow, Michael,
Yeah,
today is going to bite you in the butt. Because what we love to do is we say, well, in the past, so the past is our present.
yeah,
Well, the past is not our present. The past created the present. It's not. Make the future your present. And
yes.
that's what I help do.
That's good. So you help. Who's an ideal prospect client? Because you say small business owner, so that's a pretty broad thing.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
do you love working with?
I listen, I love working with small to mid-sized business owners, but the reality is my sweet spot is, if you got between 50 and 200 employees, 5 to $20 million, you're a manufacturer distributor, and you're saying, wow, I'm in market A. Let's say I'm in Kentucky. Geez, I wonder why I picked Kentucky. And I
Yeah.
want to now sell in California. We need to have a conversation because how are you going to get to California? And I don't mean by car or by plane or what I mean, what are you going to do? Who are you going to talk to? And so there's a lot of things to unpack. So whether you're going from one city to another state, another country,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't plan out, and it's not just plan, what are the potential obstacles in front of me? Who
Right.
are the potential competitors I might be hitting with? What's the legislation that might be in my way? What could possibly be in my way to get what I'm doing right here? And that's what we help solve.
Okay. I'm gonna say another thing here. Um, and, and I may have to. Questions are more important than answers. Meaning, David, you have a background with big business and small business and multiple countries and things, and you've done this so many times that maybe intuitively, maybe just from experience, you know what questions to ask that a small business owner growing, wanting to go to a new market, a new country, they're not even going to think of those questions. Is that fair?
Oh, beyond fair. In
Okay.
fact, if you were to sit with me right now, anytime I have a first conversation with somebody, when we don't dig into the weeds. What I ask is I have three questions to ask. Question number one: what is the problem that you're solving for your clients? Now, I start with the client end because if do you understand what your product or service is doing for your client?
Mm-hmm.
Clear. And a lot of people say, yeah, 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 yeah. And I said, well, did you ask the client that question? All right. And I'll get the kind of the deer in headlights going like, well, no, no, no. You need to ask them first. Then the second thing I ask is, so what is the uniqueness behind your product or service? And it doesn't have to be massive, and it can't be price, because price anybody can beat at any point. Ask Walmart. And so price is not the competitive advantage.
Yep.
And then the third thing is, can you define who your ideal customer is? Because when you go to market number two, if I have to change a lot of those three questions, a lot of that has to change, it's going to be a real tough to enter that market. So my
Right.
first new market entry is I want to keep it as close to what I'm currently doing as possible,
Yeah.
so that when I make that growth move, I have less impact on my business.
Yeah.
But if I have to make too many changes, that's painful. So I tell everybody before we do anything, let's address the three questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can answer them effectively, we can find that new market and make the move easily.
Yeah. That's so good. And those three questions, again, I want people to go back and re-listen to that. What problem are you solving for your clients? What's the uniqueness behind your product or service? Can't be price. And then can you define your ideal client? Right? Go back and re-listen to what he said, because business owners, I think they struggle with these things. They can tell you all day long, David, about their product or their
Sure.
service. And all of that is fine and good. What is it that your client is wanting? What are you solving for them? That's so good, because if you understand that, then you're at an opportunity to grow and to build more. And when you're talking about expansion and growth, growing revenue, you work with the company, and so you're bringing together. You're able to bring together the marketing side, the sales side, the operations side, and the market aspects of it, because you may find somebody who says, "Hey, I want to go do this and I want to go to Mexico," let's say. And
Right.
you do the research and you go, "Yeah, probably not a good thing to do.
Correct.
Let's try going to Argentina because of X, Y, and Z."
100%. 100%.
Unpack that, because yeah,
Yeah, because listen, without research, you're firing darts in the dark, and we will, and I know we all have our personal. Oh, I believe we could. And as a Canadian, we look at the United States as, you guys are the Garden of Eden. You guys are like, I don't know, pot of gold. But to come to the United States is 50 countries in one,
yeah,
or seven massive districts in one. You can't just, let's do this. So if you don't understand the market, its nuances, that's why I start with those first three questions, is I got to figure out, can these three be matched in a market? And then the next question is the competition. Am I dealing
mm,
with light competition, or do I have a big mammoth of a player in there?
right,
There's this political
economic, social, technological, environmental, legal aspects. Is there something there that's in my way? So one thing that North Americans miss is when we go to Europe, they have a privacy law and it's called GDPR. And if you've never heard of it, look up these initials. It's insane. North American companies going to Europe and all of a sudden going, what the heck is this? And all of a sudden, there's another layer of cost, another layer of security, another layer of this. And they go, wow, we lost money in Europe. Yeah, had you known about that first, you might not have gone in like this. You might have gone in like that or waited some time. So I'm a huge fan of research, and I don't mean only traditional research,
Right.
but also go have conversations with people in that market. Go talk to people in the associations. Don't just trust the media and the documentation. Have a chat.
Yeah.
Find out what's going on in the market. It's amazing what you get, and then you realize, you know what? You're right. Maybe it's not Mexico. Maybe it's Argentina. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not Texas. Maybe it's Arizona.
Or,
That's the way you got to play it.
or maybe, and it'd be interesting to see if you've had case studies like this. Maybe it's none of the above because by asking your three questions, I realize I am not maximizing what I currently have because I've missed something. And oh, wow, I can increase my revenues doing exactly what I'm doing today with a slight change in maybe my ideal client or something.
It's actually that's a really interesting comment, Michael, because it's what I tell people as we're researching. Because and this, by the way, this doesn't take 10 minutes. The research could take months
Right.
and to come up with a plan and whatever. So I said, in the meantime, now that we've sharpened our pencil a little bit, now go play with it. And they realize when they go to market going, our sales went up because we're so much more focused. Yes, not just from a sales, but also internally. Because if
Yes.
everybody's on board with those three questions,
Mm-hmm.
from operations to finance to human resources to you name it, everybody now goes, so that's what we're doing. That's what we're really solving. So if someone comes up with a new idea, a new product or service to add to those clients, it ties into those three questions
Yeah.
and it ties back. So suddenly you realize maybe I don't have to go with both feet into this new market. Maybe I can wait it out because there's another market here, or these clients can buy this, or.
Yeah.
Michael, it's the old McDonald's thing. Do you want fries with this? What
Yeah.
are your fries for your clients?
That's right. Yeah. And m- making sure you hit something there that making sure that before here's what I'm postulating here, okay? Here's my
Mhm.
hypothesis. A
Go for
company
it.
has been growing, they hit a plateau and they
Yep.
think we're going to go and start a new market. And
Yeah.
what the reality is, they sometimes they need to pull back, get the answers to these questions and a few others probably. And what they're going to say is the solution is not a new market necessarily, but it's making sure your physical plant, your prototype is functioning well so that then you can launch a new prototype in another market.
Could be.
Good?
Could
Yeah.
be.
You never know, do you? Until you do the research.
You got to know, and you got to know, and not only that, but your clients can guide you into that new market. Those your clients can tell. So research is the base at this point. Now, what also research will uncover for you is, if I didn't know about tariffs, I wouldn't, I could be making a big mistake. I work with Mexican clients, for example, who've come into the United States, and despite the tariffs, because we did the research, we realized the impact the tariffs had on the competition was way worse than on the Mexican companies, and it gave us a competitive advantage.
There you
Had
go.
we not done that research, we wouldn't have known, and they wouldn't have gone in.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Big difference. All right, let's pivot just a tad because I threw something out early with the name of your company, and I want to make sure I enunciated it properly because
Yeah.
David's not talking about zero growth. He's talking about zero growth, right?
Well, it's zero growth, and
Zero
basically,
growth.
as I said, it's a play on, as we talked about earlier, it's a play on the word CRO. Instead of a C, it's an S and E, and the combination is S is for strategy, E is for execution. And what we do, and it is not self-promotion here, is we build the strategy, but we got to execute
Yeah.
because as a small business, a medium-sized business, time resources are not on your side. So we roll out the plan. And then when the plan reaches a certain critical point that we've agreed upon in advance, now we bring everything under one roof and now you could take care of it yourself. because business owners, you're still working in and on what you're currently doing. And sometimes that new is a little disruptive. So we take care of it until we can bring it all in under one roof, and then you guys can run with it and you're super happy. So there, that's the real reason why I play with the word zero growth. It's not zero, I promise you.
That's right.
We don't do zero anything.
Chief revenue officer with zero growth. No,
It was zero growth. Yeah,
I-
we're the negative people.
so let's talk about as we start moving towards the end here and closing things out. But let's talk about your ideal, a good prospect for you. What are they feeling? What are they dealing with? What's keeping them up at night? What are they wrestling with, them and their team, before they reach out for that first conversation with you? What's going on in their head and their heart?
I generally I have two types of conversations. Conversation one, the simpler one is we're thinking of growing, we're not sure where. How do
Okay.
we do this?
Yeah.
Okay, great, because really they how, where, all these opportunities, all these options, you know, let's have this conversation. But conversation number two that I've had with people was, we tried to go to market X, we flopped, we failed, we couldn't get it to go. Can't figure out why. There was an opportunity. What do we do wrong? And I tell everybody it's not about what you did wrong, it's about what we missed. Okay? And
Mm,
that's that conversation. What was in the tea leaves that you didn't see because of a variety of different reasons. And often, and I have one client in Mexico, and he said, "Oh, I tried to go into the US, and we went in and we tried to hire a salesperson, it didn't work." I said, "Yeah, because it wasn't a salesperson needed, it was a distributor network. You need to go through distributors, not a salesperson. You weren't ready. The salesperson was phase two. You didn't do phase one. And that's what the research found. And that's what we don't do. So if you're contemplating growth or you've dealt with growth in a new market and it was painful, those are the two conversations that I have right at the beginning.
that's awesome. All right. So if somebody's out there thinking that they might need a conversation, how do they do that? What's the next step for somebody? Is it a conversation, or is it more research? Is it looking at your LinkedIn? Where does somebody take that next step to go, David, I'd love to learn more and talk about growing my business the right way? How do they get in touch with you?
Excellent question. Folks, I'm easy. info@zerogrowth.com. Reach out to me. The conversation is free. I'm happy to sit and chat with anybody. Let's have an hour long chat. Tell me what hurts. Tell me what your vision is.
Mm,
Do you know? And by the way, Michael, one thing we didn't discuss, but really is, have you thought of retirement? Have you thought of where you want to retire and how you want to get out of the business? Sell it, move it, give it to your kids, something.
yeah.
Um, these are conversations we're going to have. So if you want to talk, brainstorm ideas, that info@zerogrowth.com. You can reach me out on LinkedIn. It's David I. Solomon. That's the way to find me on there. But yeah, let's reach out to me, LinkedIn,
Love it.
email, carrier pigeon, whatever you
There
like.
you go. I love it. All right, I'm going to grab some of those and put those in the show notes, so that as you're listening to this, probably on the road or something, you can come back to that and find out how to connect with David and really understand what it would be to have a fractional chief revenue officer, somebody who's looking at your company, having conversations with you as the entrepreneur, and going, what are you wanting to do? And if we're going to grow, how do we do it with the right research, and make sure that we have these questions and a few others dialed in so that your team is there? This is not a purple pill. This is something that you're going to work through, but it's going to give you a solid plan moving forward. So
Thanks, Michael.
you're welcome, David. I'm going to grab that, put it in the show notes. Thanks for David. Thanks for being my guest today. I appreciate you, the way you show up. I appreciate what you do in bringing years of experience to the table for small business owners, helping them serve more people, grow more revenue, live the life of their dreams. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to Experts Speak. Tune in again next week for another great episode. Take care. God bless.